147 years. That's how long this newest cartridge in the world has been in development. And we're going to find out how all of that happened on this episode of Ron Spomer Outdoors. Hello everyone, what's this new cartridge and how can it be 147 years old? The 400 Legend from Winchester. Yes, as predicted, it's another straight wall cartridge to address the states that require straight walls for deer hunting. We've got the 350 Legend. Of course, we had the 444 Marlin, the 4570, the 405 Winchester, the 375 Winchester. There were all kinds of straight wall cartridges available. None of them are exactly ideal because some states require a maximum case length of 1.8 inches. So these new developments like the 350 Winchester, the 360 Buckhammer, and now the 400 Legend, those are matching up perfectly with the specifications from these different states on their straight walls. So that's how the 400 got started. But what is this nonsense about 147 years of development? Well, we're going to go way back to how all of this started. And it actually began with the Ballard Rifle Company. In 1876, they came out with a cartridge called the 3855. I do not have an example of that here. I'm sorry. Now here's where it gets interesting. Competition. Remington and Winchester back in the day were going head to head. They pretty much still are. And in 1906, what Remington did was they borrowed, shall we say, the 30-30, shaved the rim off of it, and came up with the 30 Remington for their new auto-loading Remington Model 8 rifle. Now, this is not the 30. This is a 25 caliber version of it, so they've obviously necked it down, but the cartridge dimensions are about the same otherwise. So you can see the similarity to the 30-30 from that 30 Remington. So there was your first sort of stealing one another's ideas, but then the crazy thing was Remington resurrected the 30 Remington, which had kind of gone away in the 30s. They resurrected it to make the 6.8 SPC, a 270 cartridge. And of course, the 270 was Winchester's original idea, the first 270 cartridge. Then Remington had it now in an original Winchester when Winchester had stolen it from Ballard. And oh my goodness, it goes way back. But now the really cool thing, bringing us up to the present day, Winchester grabbed the 6.8 SPC, straightened it out, and necked it up to 40. There's where we've got the 400 Legend. So you can trace that thing all the way back through the 6.8 SPC, through the 30-30, through the 38-55 to 1876. That's why I say it's been under development that long. Well, obviously, Winchester wasn't thinking about 1876 and the Ballard Rifle Company when it started working on the 400. They were thinking, how can we make a straight-walled cartridge that might have more power and punch than the 350 Legend. And the 350 Legend is no slouch. It performs about like a 30-30, maybe a little bit better in some respects, maybe not so much in the others. But golly, you've got to give it credit for sparking a heck of a lot of interest. That's just one of the top-selling rounds in Winchester's arsenal right now. But they thought there are a lot of guys who want more bullet. More energy on target, just something bigger. Why not go to the 400? So that's how they came up with this 400 Legend. They straightened out the wall of that SPC and they got the 400. It actually shoots a 40 grain bullet. I mean, a 40 caliber bullet. 215 grains in the initial loading. This is a PowerPoint bullet. 215 grains. They rated at 2,250 feet per second. We are going to compare those numbers with a 30-30 using a 170 grain bullet just to see how close it comes to put everything in perspective. And then I think you're going to get a better feel for what you can expect from this cartridge versus the 350 Legend versus the 30-30 versus the soon-to-be available 360 Buckhammer coming out from Remington. And we will eventually do some videos on all of these and compare them. But right now, I just want to pull everyone else off the table except for that 30-30. And compare these two, because most of us understand what the 30-30 is capable of. How is this 400 Legend going to stack up? So we're going to go to the ballistic charts, of course. And here we're going to launch a 215 grain bullet at 2,250 feet per second from the 400 Legend. We're going to compare that to a 170 grain bullet in the 30-30. I used the 170 rather than the 150 to get the energies up. I think the 170 is a better option, 30-30 anyway. We're more interested in energy than we are in ballistic trajectory because neither of these is going to be a long-range cartridge. Figure 200 yards for both of them. We'll find out exactly how this happens. All right, the ballistics coefficient on this bullet is 206, 0.206. Not real high. The 30-30, 170 grain bullet in around those would probably be about 0.252. on the BC. So it's going to have a little better advantage in the wind deflection department. We are going to launch this guy, the 215 grain 400, at 2,250 feet per second. We're going to get 2,150 feet per second for the 30-30. And we're going to zero both of them so they're no higher than 3 inches. And that's right about 100 yards. So if you zero your rifle at 100 yards, 3 inches high, you're going to be able to reach to 200 yards, maybe a little bit further before it falls more than 3 inches. So the energy developed by the Big 400 is 2,417 foot-pounds at the muzzle. That compares to just 1,745 for the 30-30. This might be a big surprise for a lot of folks because we've got a reputation in that 30-30 as being a really hard-hitting brush cartridge. It really isn't all that powerful. It's darned effective on whitetails, but it's not what you would call a powerhouse. This 400 is going to have a lot more energy. Whether that makes any difference to the deer is to be determined. I really don't think it matters all that much. Nonetheless, let's see how this thing progresses downrange. At 50 yards, you're going to have 2,018 foot-pounds of energy left in the 400, and you're down to 1,500 in the 30-30. So you're starting to lose a little energy, but 1,500, that's plenty. You can drop an elk with that, no problem. If you want to get down to that magic number of about 1,000 foot-pounds of energy, which is often recommended as kind of your baseline for good, effective whitetail and mule deer, you're looking at 175 yards for the 30-30, and you're going to stretch it out all the way to 225 or 230 yards roughly for the 400. So there is an energy advantage there. Now, what about drops? Well, we've already talked about that 3 inches zero at 100 yards. At 150, you drop 1.74 inches with the 400 and 1.77 with the 30-30, neck and neck. Stretch it out to 200 yards, you're dropping 2.55 inches from the 400, 2.57 out of the 30-30. These two are flying almost exactly the same trajectories. However, wind deflection, at 150 yards, you've got 5.38 inches of wind deflection out of the 400 and 4.59 out of the 30-30. So here once again is the advantage of the higher ballistics coefficient bullet. But boy, 3-4 inches of deflection on a whitetail, that's not a lot. You're still going to be able to make a dead on the chest hold and score. So your maximum point blank range before these things drop 3 inches is just a little past 200 yards with the 400 and same thing with the 30-30. So I think this is a great way to measure up initially the 400 Legend. You're essentially getting a 30-30 performance with a little bit wider bullet, obviously. It's a 40 caliber instead of a 30. And a lot of guys like that. They think a bigger hole going in really makes a big difference. And it may not. I can't say for sure, but you've certainly got that advantage. Energy-wise, got a little more energy in the big 40, but the trajectories are almost identical. So just figure if you're going to have to hunt in a straight wall state and you wish you had a 30-30, you pretty much have it in the 400 Legend. So, what gives this guy its horsepower? I don't know exactly how much powder they're putting in here. I would guess somewhere from 25 to, at the max, 30 grains of powder. Really doesn't matter. The maximum average chamber pressure on this guy is about 2,000 PSI more than the 30-30. So it's at 45,000, which isn't real high. But again, this is probably figuring out you're going to be loading this thing in some fairly light short rifles. Now, the ballistics we did were from a 20-inch barrel on both of these. So once again, this 400 matches right up to that 30-30 in those light, handy woods rifles. It's not a rimmed case. Not only is it rimless, but it looks to me like it's a little bit rebated. I know the SPC is rebated a bit. Yeah, there's just a little bit of rebate on that rim. So it is probably not going to work in the lever action rifles. Single shots, AR styles, autoloaders, and bolt actions would be the market for that guy. Now, something a little bit unusual, of course, is this 40 caliber bullet. I mean, how many 40 caliber rounds can you think of? Think 4440, no, that's a 44, going way back. The 4440 Winchester, and I think I have one up here, yeah. This little guy. That was in 1873, the first centerfire rifle cartridge in the 73 Winchester lever action rifle. They at one point necked that down, and they had a 40 caliber bullet in it. And then there's the 40 Smith & Wesson handgun round, and the 10 millimeter auto handgun is a 40 caliber. And then there was around 1907, Winchester came out with the 401 Winchester self-loading for their new auto-loading rifles. And it was a fairly anemic cartridge, a little bit less powerful than this guy, but pretty close. So if you're familiar with that at all, that thing lasted until the 1930s maybe. Wasn't hugely popular, but a lot of guys liked it for woods hunting in an auto-loading rifle, that Winchester self-loading rifle. So I would say that the 400 Legend is kind of a reiteration of that. Obviously, it's made on a different case and all. So I think it's probably a nice little touch to have a wider diameter bullet that's still in a straight wall case. You're not going to be able to use the 4570 or the 444 Marlin in a lot of these straight wall states because the case length is too much. They limit that to 1.8, so you're not going to get those. So this might be your option if you're looking for a bigger bore. Hey, we're going to do more on the 400 Legend and compare it to the 360 Buckhammer, do some shooting outdoors with these, and we'll just get a lot more details. But I think right now you can pretty safely assume that if you're looking for 30-30 performance for a deer rifle, you're going to pretty much get it out of that 400 Legend. Say, you might also check my website. I'm going to do a blog detailing the 400 Legend a bit more. We'll compare it to a few more cartridges and stuff. And down the road, of course, we will be doing the videos. I think we've got a hunt video coming up. A friend of mine shot a really big buck with this 400 Legend, and we're going to try to put something together on that. That's it for now, and thanks for joining me on our journey 147 years into the past to come up to the newest rifle cartridge for the future, the 400 Legend. Hunt honest and shoot straight.